Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Cheffinz Experience, a taste of Jamaica. This is a special episode for two reasons. Firstly, this is a two-part episode, the second part of which will reveal a sweet surprise. And secondly, today's meal will honor two historically significant days in Jamaica's history, Emancipation and Independence Days. These national holidays are iconic in Jamaica's history, marking the liberation of our people from slavery and gaining our independence. To celebrate the freedoms we enjoy today, our meal will reflect the flavor and style which our people have developed in our cuisine over the years. Welcome to Cheffinz Experience, a taste of Jamaica, the Emancipation episode. So we're going to kickstart things with the protein. First of all, we have some barbecue jerk ribs and we have some jerk chicken. But we're going to do a little twist and glaze it with some mango chutney. Persons are oftentimes intimidated by barbecue, but I'm going to simplify this process for you by simply taking some brown sugar, adding some of our Eaton's dry jerk rub, and some paprika. I'm just going to combine this quickly with a fork. From there, we're going to move the ribs over to our tray, brush it with a little mustard, and the mustard is to ensure that the seasonings and the sugar stick. Just transfer the ribs over here. Now, when you're buying your ribs, you can ask your butcher to remove the silver skin. The silver skin is a membrane that's on the back of the ribs. No matter how much you cook it, it can't cook. It cannot be cooked. It will not get tender, and it will cause you to think that your ribs are actually tough. You understand? So if you can't do it yourself, just ask your butcher kindly to remove the silver skin for you and you'll be good to go. I'm going to use a spoon, add a little bit of mustard, spread it on. We don't need a thick layer, we're just looking for full coverage. Following that, our dry rub. So the Eaton's jerk seasoning will actually flavor the meat. It will also help to tenderize it. Typically for barbecue rubs, you'd have to combine some brown sugar, some onion powder, paprika, and a whole bunch of stuff. But again, we're simplifying it for you using the Eaton's dry jerk rub, which of course is available on our website at tasteofjamaica.com. Visit the website, find what you want, add it to your shopping cart. Have your items delivered within 2 to 7 days. It really is as simple as click, pick, and indulge. Can't get easier than that. That means it cannot get any easier than that. So I'm going to teach you a number of things today. Now once we get this done, I don't like seasoning meats and adding them to the grill immediately. Like, I live and die by pre-seasoning and marination. My ideal is overnight, 8 hours. If I can go 24, then I will go 24. But I highly recommend that you do nothing less than about 4 hours when you're marinating your ribs, your chicken, beef, fish. Fish is fine. You can get away with half an hour for fish. All right, so now we have full coverage on this. I'm just going to pick it up, move it off to the fridge so that it can marinate, and then we'll get started on seasoning the chicken. All right, so we finished the ribs. I cleared my station. Let's move on to the chicken. If you thought the ribs was easy, this packaging literally says, just add meat. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pull this, pour it over the chicken. You wanna go with, according to the package, it's 1 teaspoon per pound of meat. I'm gonna eyeball it. Give it a rub. That's it. I would recommend wearing gloves when you do this. If you don't have gloves, if you're not going to do that, then when you're washing your hands, you can wash it with a little bit of lime juice or vinegar. Because if pepper gets, what happens is the oils from pepper, that is what gets under your skin and causes it to burn. So you can actually neutralize that oil with a little bit of acid. So as soon as I'm finished here, I'm going to wash my hands with a little bit of vinegar. And just like the ribs, all you're looking for is full coverage. So we get a little under the skin, we get into the crevices, stuff some into the ribs, and that's it. So I'm going to move this to the fridge as well, clear up my station, and then we'll get started on the sides. All right, so it's time for the sides. I'm gonna get started with the potatoes, then we'll move on to the rice and peas. For the potatoes, I have some Irish here that I just parboiled. These are about 75–80% done. I added a little bit of vinegar to the water so that they're not too tender. I don't want them to break apart really. And I added some baking soda to the water as well. And what that will do is pretty much change the chemical structure of the skin. That way the skin is crispy. So we're doing crispy skin roasted potato salads. Over here, I have some buttermilk. If you cannot get buttermilk, what you can do is take about a cup of milk and add a tablespoon of lime juice, lemon juice, or vinegar to it. And just leave it for about 10 minutes. And that is a nice buttermilk substitute. In this bowl, I have some mayonnaise and some Dijon mustard. I'm going to combine all of these, set them in the fridge, cover this in some olive oil, season it with some more of our Cheffinz dry jerk rub, roast them off, and as soon as it's cooled, we will combine all of the roasted potato ingredients. I'm going to mix up the mustard and the mayo. I like using Dijon mustard because of the flavor and the grains that it has. I think it looks nice and it adds texture. Following that, I'm going to pour in my buttermilk. I'm going to pour it in maybe about thirds. That way it's easier to combine and less messy. And this is what we're looking for. This is the kind of texture and consistency that we want for this buttermilk mixture. All right, scrape down the sides, knock off the excess. This goes straight to the fridge. While that is in the fridge, we're going to season our potatoes. You spread it out evenly, coat it in some olive oil, and this will also help with it being more crispy. Try and get some full coverage. And if you can bruise this a little bit, that's fine. What you can do, you can add it to a big bowl and add the oil to it, add the seasoning and toss it around. So you bruise it a little more. And what that will do is actually give you more surface area so that you can get more crispy bits. All right, so once this is fully coated with the oil, nice and bruised a little bit, I'm gonna go in with some of our Cheffinz dry jerk rub. Again, you don't want too much on here. You don't want to over salt it, you don't want to over season it. Over seasoning is actually a thing. You just want nice flavor. So you want a thin layer on there. And then I'm gonna borrow some of the garlic from my rice and peas ingredients, because I like a nice garlic roasted potato. Give it a toss. The oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That might sound high to some persons, but again, we want crispy potatoes. One thing I forgot to mention, after I boiled this, I left it in a colander to air dry, right? Moisture is actually the enemy of crispy skin. So you don't want any moisture on there. And it's a little tedious to try and dry it off with paper towel. So just boil it, throw it off in a colander, let it drain fully, and then you can move on to this process. I'm going to wash my hands, pop it in our oven, and then get started on the rice and peas right away. And we're off to the oven. All right, so now that the potatoes are in the oven, we're gonna move on to the rice and peas, as I said before. This is really simple. At the end of the day, it's about dumping all of this in there, plus timing. We're gonna dump pretty much everything except the rice. And as soon as it comes up to a boil and the flavor is good, we're gonna drop the rice in there. So, I have some water over here that was preheating. I'm gonna add the coconut milk. I'm gonna add the pre-cooked kidney beans. I'm gonna go in with a thyme, garlic, and the scallion. Give that a stir. Now, traditionally, like in Jamaica, what would happen is in the morning, Sunday morning, we normally have rice and peas for dinner on a Sunday afternoon or evening. In the morning when you get up, you put on your peas to boil, and that is what you'd use to make your rice and peas, and that would give you a nice red color, and the whole house just smell up, and it's really nostalgic to a Jamaican. However, what we're gonna do, or what we did here, we used the pre-cooked kidney beans that come in the can. Right now, we're all about convenience. And in mentioning that, what I'm going to show you is how we're going to substitute the Scotch bonnet pepper and the ginger. Scotch bonnet pepper in your rice and peas is iconic, but again, we know you can't get it everywhere. So one of the things that we like to use for something like this is the Monroe Scotch bonnet powder. You get the Scotch bonnet flavor and you get the heat. Ginger in your rice and peas is optional, but do it anyway. Like, it tastes a lot better. I don't cook rice and peas without ginger. So we're gonna go in with some of the home choice ginger extract, because again, it's a lot more convenient. I'm just gonna put a tip in there, because we know ginger can be very strong. We just want it as a background flavor, so to speak. Again, both these products, along with the others that we've mentioned before, can be found on our website at tasteofjamaica.com. Give that a stir. And from here, we're going to go in with some dry spices. This is a cinnamon stick. This is completely optional, but ever since I started doing it, I can't cook my rice and peas without it. Cinnamon stick. We have some allspice berries that we crushed. And we also have some nutmeg that we grated, fresh nutmeg that we grated. I'm gonna add that to the pot. Go in with a touch of salt. And then wait for this to come up to the boil. As soon as it starts to boil, we can taste it. If it needs a little more salt, then we adjust accordingly. One good tip that I like to use here is we can add a little bit of cold pressed coconut oil or some butter to the rice and peas. That gives it more flavor. That allows it to be less likely to clump together. But as we talk about clumping, one of the things that you should do is wash your rice. We're using jasmine rice here. We washed it until the water ran clear. Two reasons: to clean the rice, of course, but the second reason is to get rid of the additional starch. The more starch you have left on your rice, the more likely it is to clump. And in Jamaica, we like our rice and peas what we call shelly. We don't like it soft and clump up together. We don't like it mushy like that. So the less starch we have on there, the less likely it is to get, to that kind of clumpy texture. So we're just waiting for this to come up to the boil. We'll adjust for the seasoning, then we'll add the rice and cook it. It will take about 20-25 minutes. All right, so I'm gonna allow this to just go ahead for a little bit, kind of clear my workstation and get started on the barbecue sauce. I'm gonna go in with some ketchup. I'm gonna go in with some mustard. And this is just plain yellow mustard. Really simple, really straightforward barbecue sauce we're doing. We want some brown sugar. Give that a little stir. Following that, we'll go in with some apple cider vinegar. A good barbecue sauce to me is supposed to be sweet and tangy. I'm going with some paprika. Worcestershire sauce. And some jerk seasoning. And that's it. Let this come up to the boil. Once it comes to the boil, simmer it again 10 minutes or so, and your barbecue sauce is ready. All right, so all the sides are now finished in terms of cooking. We have the potatoes that are fully roasted. I'm going to combine it with the buttermilk mixture. That's the first thing. Now, you can put as little or as much as you want. I'm going to go ahead and start it like this. If you want it a bit more creamy, you add more. If you don't want it as creamy, don't put as much. And go in with a little bit more. And this looks good to me. So we're gonna let this cool in the fridge for about an hour or so. So I left the rice and peas off the heat for a good 10 minutes or so. Following that, I'm going to pull out some of the excess spices and seasonings and fluff it. That's best done with a fork, all right? Now this is the kind of texture that we're looking for in the rice and peas. Any rice that you're cooking, really and truly. As long as you're not talking about like sticky Asian type rice. Our preference here is this shelly kind of texture. They're not clumping together. It's not too soft. It's just nice, tender, and fluffy. All right, so now we're outdoors, and right away I'm going to drop some jerk chicken on the grill. Because of how long we have this marinated, it should take about 30 minutes per side. So we're gonna rotate it constantly, and we should be finished cooking in about an hour. I have an aluminum pan on the grill with some hot barbecue sauce. I added the ribs directly to it, and I'm going to cook it about 75% of the way. When that is finished, I'm going to take it out of the pan and add it directly to the grill so that we can get a nice crust on there. The reason I did it like that is because I want the ribs to be as tender and as delicate as possible. And that is one of the ways that we can ensure that that is the case. And there you have it. We've been cooking all day and now I'm ready for nyam. That's Jamaican dialect for I am ready to consume the food. We have all our savory items here. We have our dessert and I am me a starve. I am hungry. So I want to dig in. Thank you very much for joining me for the Cheffinz experience. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, all of that. Happy Emancipation.